Okay, so chapter 14, Pasuk 36, Lamed Vav, in the book of Shmuel Aleph. When we last left off, Yonatan, the son of Shaul, he initiated the battle against the Plishtim. He snuck in with his attendant, and they caused a tremendous fear to fall upon the Plishtim when they killed 20 of their people, 20 of their soldiers, and there was such a panic that the Philistines started killing each other, and they were just so overwhelmed by what had happened that the Jews were able to come down upon them very strongly and fight. And Shaul at the time was so eager and felt it was such an opportunity to strike down the Plishtim that Shaul made everyone take an oath, and he forbade eating on that day. He forbade any soldier to eat until sunset, so that way they wouldn't busy themselves with eating at all. They'd be completely focused on the battle. And Yonatan did not know about this, and he comes exhausted from the battle, and he finds a little bit of nectar, whether it's honey or figs or something. Or he did honey, and he has a taste of it. And at that moment, somebody tells him, "You just violated the oath." And Jonathan is upset. He says, "I can't believe my father would impose such a thing on the nation. If we had more energy, we would be able to fight more." That's when so we're going to pick up from that story. And then shortly after that, the people were able to eat, and we saw that they were in such a haste to start eating that they did something improper. Either they ate the sacrifice prematurely, or they ate before the blood could properly leave the meat, and they did the prohibition of eating blood. They did something because of the haste and the hunger that they were experiencing, which kind of is like a validation to Jonathan's critique. Shaul actually made a poor choice to forbid eating on the nation, perhaps. And now, in verse number 36, Shaul makes a decision. He says, let's continue fighting. He says, Nirdach rei plishtim laila v'navoza behem ad ora boker. Let's go attack them now at night as well, and we'll plunder them until the morning, and we won't leave anyone alive. So the nation's response to Shaul is, Kol hatov b'einecha aseh. Whatever you see good in your eyes, you should do. Which I'm not sure how to read. Are they saying, like, we're really exhausted, we just been fasting all day, we just finally got to eat, but if you say so, we'll do it? It's like, is it a reluctance, acceptance of Shaul's will, or are they in fact wholeheartedly committed to do whatever he wants? It's not clear. I mean, at the end of the day, they were submitting themselves to Shaul's decision, but I'm not sure if there's any reluctance here, and I didn't see any Mefarshim speak about it other than contemporary ones, which are not necessarily worth quoting. Okay. The Kohen interjects and said, you know what? Before we go to war, let's ask God. The way they would ask God was through the Urim V'Tumim, the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. They would make a request or ask a question, and God would answer on the Urim V'Tumim, like they had done in the past. Who should go up to war in the times of Yeshua, when Eli asked the Urim V'Tumim what to do with Chana, etc. And in this case, something very shocking happens. In verse number 37. Good evening, Mr. Wolpert. Nice to see that you're learning. As you go down on your way, you're even learning Torah.
That's right.
Keep it up. So here's a shocking thing that happens. Shaul asks if they should continue the pursuit into the night. Velo anahu bayomahu. The final words of verse 37. And Hashem did not reply. It's not that Hashem said no or yes. He didn't answer at all. And this is a devastating sign. Immediately, Shaul was sure that this had to do with sin. And there's no reason that Hashem would disconnect from his people other than a drop in their spiritual standing. And so Shaul immediately says, everyone gather together. Kol pinot ha'am, all the corners of the nation. He gathers everyone together. And he says, we have to figure out what our sin was. And he swears, even if the sin is my son Jonathan, he will die. Right? And so unknowingly, Shaul
What does that
What
mean?
did you say?
Even if the sin is my son Jonathan, does that
Excuse
mean?
me, even if the one who sinned,
Oh, the one who,
excuse me, yeah. Even if Jonathan is the one who sinned, let him die, and nobody confessed. It could be some individuals knew that Jonathan had violated the oath of eating, but nobody put him forward. And the reason Shaul himself singled out Yonatan is because he's saying, even my son Jonathan, who is my son, who I naturally love, and he's also the hero of this war. He's the one who initiated the whole battle, and he caused this whole devastation by the Plishtim. Even somebody so prestigious as that, if he's sinned, even he'll be put to death. Meaning, I'm not holding back at all. I'm completely committed to getting this out of our midst.
Why such an extreme commitment? Why not tshuva as opposed to death?
This, I guess, in this case, he's trying to establish, as the king, he needs to establish that there's a no tolerance for sin in his midst, especially in a time of war, when there's a heightened sensitivity and it's dangerous. You have to have absolute commitment to Hashem. And I suspect that's what's going on over here, that Shaul, as the king, is trying to establish that there's no messing around. There's no, and then if you want to do the tshuva, that's between you and God. But as far as the nation goes, you're not allowed to mess up. Here, it's not the modern day teaching style, where we're very fluffy and constantly supporting the, right? You don't mess up. That's it. Zero tolerance. Yeah, Mr. Fox.
Is the violation of the king's order not to eat considered a sin?
Good question.
As opposed to a violation of something else. And the other aspect of it is, if you don't know the king's decree, is it a violation of the king's decree?
Excellent. Good. Two excellent questions. Regarding your first question, is it in fact a sin if the king makes a decree and you violate it? So a Jewish king has the authority to make a cherem. A cherem is a ban, which actually it takes effect on the entire nation. This is one of the things that a king is able to do. And so just like I can take a vow and say that this object is forbidden to me like a pig, that actually becomes a spiritual reality and I cannot eat it. It is a sin to eat that thing. So too, the king can impose that on the entire nation. And eating it all on that day was a sin. It would be a violation of that cherem that he made. Now, you then asked, okay, even if it's a binding oath or binding cherem, if you don't know about it, are you still liable to punishment? That's your next question. Yonatan had no idea that there was. Well, why should he think that it would be forbidden to eat? And that actually is going to be the exonerating factor for Jonathan, as we'll see. That's actually a critical point, that he wasn't aware of it, and this wasn't an intentional sin. It was a shogeg, and he actually is not deserving of death. But more on that in a moment. Okay, so Shaul first announced, he says, something went wrong. Who did it? Please speak up. Anybody who sinned, the one who sinned, even if it's my own son Jonathan, he will be put to death. And he swears. Nobody answers. So he decides, you know what, we're going to draw lots. And he divides everyone, interestingly, into two groups. One group is the entire nation, and the other group is Shaul and Jonathan.
there it is.
Just him and his son. Presumably, I didn't see in the Mefarshim why this is so. He's going to draw lots now, and whoever the lot is going to fall on, it will indicate that the sin is in that with them. So if the lot falls on the nation, then it's somebody in the nation that did a sin. If the lot falls on Shaul and Jonathan, he'll know it's one of them too. Why did he divide it like that? Why would he put himself and his son aside? It could be because they were the leaders of the war. Jonathan was the one who did the fighting, and Shaul was the king, and he's the commander-in-chief. And it could be that, therefore, they had this special category. Additionally, Shaul was aware of a sin that had happened, which was a little bit earlier on in the chapter, which we discussed last time. The nation, eating in their haste, had done a national sin by eating the blood. So many of them at that time had done a wrong thing regarding the eating, something to do with eating on the blood. So maybe they had not corrected it properly. So he put them in their own group, as if to suggest, perhaps that's the sin that we're being punished for. And look at what happens. First, in verse number 41 in Mem Aleph, Shaul first davens that this should be successful. He's drawing lots to determine the truth. This is a very unconventional way of doing things. That's not the way we operate in a court of law. You don't just draw lots and say, oh, you must be the guilty one. Right? You got the short straw. That's not how it works. But here we're dealing with God and a nation of God. And Shaul is relying on the fact that Hashem is going to come through and communicate to them where the problem lies. But beautifully, he davens for it first. Vayomer Shaul al Hashem, Elohei Yisrael, Hava Tamim. Hava Tamim. Please let there be a flawless verdict. He says, let it be perfect. Let it go perfectly. Which the Mefarshim say, let this lot drawing, which is a random process, let it be with your providence, with your hashgacha, and not just random. We want you to actually communicate to us through this lot, which is a very fascinating thing. And sure enough, the lot falls on Jonathan and Shaul. So then Shaul says, okay, let's figure out who it is, me or you, Jonathan. So they draw more lots, and it comes out on Jonathan, on Yonatan. So now Yonatan has been identified as the sinner by the lots. Shaul turns to him and says, what have you done? Tell me what you've done. And on the spot, Yonatan does not hold back. Ta'om ta'amti, he says, I tasted a little bit of honey with the tip of my staff, and I'm prepared to die. I accept upon myself the punishment. I violated the oath. Vayomer Shaul has no mercy. Let Hashem do this, he should put you to death. Kimot tamut Yonatan. You, Yonatan, shall die. And now, sure enough, the nation speaks up and they say, Yonatan yamut asher asai yeshua gdela azot. Really? Should Jonathan die? He made this great salvation. Chalila, God forbid. Chai Hashem mipol misarat rasho. By Hashem's life, he shouldn't even lose a hair of his head. Ki'im Elohim asa hayom hazeh. Because Jonathan has done kindness and chesed with God on this day by saving us, by initiating this battle, and by showing such strong faith in Hashem to go into the camp on his own and trust that Hashem will make a miracle for him. And then it says, Vayivdu ha'am et Yonatan v'lo met. And the nation redeemed Yonatan, they redeemed him, and he actually did not die. He was not put to death, and he didn't die. So what's happening here? Jonathan is singled out as the sinner. Shaul says, okay, you should die now, no mercy whatsoever. And then the nation speaks up on Jonathan's behalf, and they do something called redeeming him, pidyon, and he lives. What happened? So the redemption, Vayivdu ha'am Yonatan, at Yonatan, could mean one of two things, basically. It could mean a pidyon of money. They gave tzedakah, I guess, a monetary value that should be in his stead. Like we say, tzedakah, charity can save from death, tetzil mimavet. So here they gave a monetary value to redeem Jonathan, so to speak. Additionally, pidyon means that they redeemed him with their claims. And here is where they had an argument about the validity or the necessity of him to die. He's not actually culpable. He didn't know about the oath. The Midrash goes through the reasoning they did. And even if somebody knew about it, he didn't eat the honey, he just tasted it. To just put it on your tongue without ingesting it, that's actually not a violation of the oath. The oath was eating. This is not eating, this is tasting. He didn't know about it either. And technically, the violation was to eat bread, and he ate honey. So they were using all sorts of arguments to redeem him, and it ended up working. And they said to Shaul, although you've sworn that he should be punished, a swear is not binding if it's based on a false premise. And in this case, it's a false premise. Jonathan didn't know about it, etc. And that's how he was redeemed. He was redeemed with tzedakah and through a back and forth, bringing to light his innocence. Okay. Now, it's interesting that Shaul, the humble and kind Shaul, is so harsh with his own son. Right? When Jonathan is exposed, he said, yeah, let him die. So the Radak says something important here, that it's not Shaul being harsh. In fact, Shaul knew that Jonathan didn't deserve to die because he didn't know about the oath. But he was afraid that not everybody else would realize that. He was afraid that if I let Jonathan off the hook, people are going to say, anybody else would have been put to death. But the king is taking care of his own son. little bit of nepotism and favoritism going on over here. So Shaul wanted to put the matter through the regular system so that his innocence should be brought to light publicly. Everybody should know that Yonatan is innocent. It shouldn't just be the king saying, "Don't worry about my son, he didn't know about it." It should come forward, it should be the main page of the news. The king's son is being put on trial. Shaul had no mercy. And then through all the back and forth, they'll realize, oh, Yonatan's actually innocent. And he wanted it to be public knowledge that Yonatan was innocent, and it was not dependent on the father's mercy on his son. So this is actually a wise political strategy. He knew Yonatan was innocent, but he had to put him through the regular process so it shouldn't look bad. It shouldn't reflect badly on his kingship. Okay, so that's this episode. Very fascinating. You have the catalyst, the main purpose of the whole victory was Yonatan. The main cause of the whole victory was Yonatan. He ends up having his life on the line, and he's exonerated. They deem him innocent, and he's not killed. Okay. Now, if you're keeping track of the story, this was still the night that Shaul wanted to continue chasing after the Plishtim. All right, they just asked the Urim V'Tumim for instructions. They didn't get a response. So that led to this side project of trying to figure out who the sinner is. So they figured out who the sinner is, and they've clarified that he's not actually culpable. But now, what do we do about the war? Do we continue? Do we not continue? So this is where verse number 46 picks up. Vayal Shaul ma'acharei Plishtim, u'Plishtim alchu limkomam. Shaul let up. He moved away from the battle, and the Plishtim returned to their place, which means he did not pursue them into the night, either because he felt that they didn't have the merits, because the Urim V'Tumim didn't answer, or the Radak says additionally that it could be that the time had already passed. While they were trying to figure out who was the sinner, who sinned, how did we sin, and then drawing lots and all that, the Plishtim had already moved far back, and it was not possible to chase them anymore. So Shaul just left the battlegrounds, and so did the Plishtim go back. Okay, and now in verse number 47, it says, "V'Shaul lachadim l'chal Yisrael." Shaul's kingship became strengthened over the Jews, and he started fighting with all the surrounding enemies. So this is Shaul really solidifying himself in his very short reign of 2 years. He's doing a lot of damage to the enemies, and he fights against Moab, which is in the east, and Ammon as well, Ub-Edom, which is more south, Ub-Malchetzova, Plishtim. He's fighting in all the directions, north, south, east, west. He's battling against the enemies. Uv'chol asher yifneh yarshia. The last words of verse number 47. And anywhere Shaul turned, yarshia, he inspired terror, which means he had great siyata d'shmaya. We have to appreciate, in the coming weeks, we're going to learn about the fall of Shaul. And we have to remember that he was quite a fantastic person. Yeah, God was with him. And the moment he sensed something was off, he immediately tried to chase down the sinner. And here you see God is with Shaul. B'chol asher yifnei yarshia. He terrorized the enemies just with his presence, because he had God with him. Vayas chayil, and he was, he created an army, and he began striking Amalek, and he saved Israel from his oppressors. So here you have Shaul being presented, despite all the faults that we just learned about, he's being presented as a great force and a victorious king.
You
And
can
now
to Ariel Sharon in his day.
Yeah, like Lahavdil, yeah, quite a successful military leader. And now it tells you his family, which is interesting, an interesting introduction. It's not even an exhaustive list. It tells you about the sons who fought with him. There's another son on this list that's not even mentioned. What's his name? Let me just check the. Ishboshet. Yeah. He has another son that's not mentioned here, because this list is only the sons that fought with him. So it says the sons of Shaul were Yonatan, Yishvi, Malkishua, and he had 2 daughters, Meirav and Michal, okay, who we're going to hear more about later. And it says the wife of Shaul, her name was Achinoam, the daughter of Achimatz, and his army general was his cousin, Aviner ben Ner Dod Shaul. Vikish Avi Shaul ben Ner Avner ben Aviel. And so it tells you his lineage and his family. I'm not sure why this interjection is here. One thing that's noteworthy that I found in the Radak, it says that his grandfather's name was Ner, candle. And this was a nickname because his grandfather would light up dark alleyways at night. He wanted to enable people to go to the halls of study, to the Beit Midrash. So he would buy torches and light them up in the streets so people can walk to the Beit Midrash, to the yeshiva, to go and be able to learn Torah. So seemingly the Midrash is telling us the merit that Shaul had, the spiritual merit that enabled him to achieve such greatness, was that his grandfather made sure that other people were serving Hashem properly. And he did what it took. He even, made sure to light the street lamps at night. And those are the things that make a great leader. It's not about charisma and wealth necessarily. And Shaul keeps gathering an army. In verse number 51 is the end of the chapter. The war was strong against the Philistines all the days of Shaul. The Ra'ah Shaul kol ish gibor, v'chol ben chayil v'yasfeu elav. And Shaul, anytime he would see a strong man, he would gather him to the army. Hey, you're coming with me. You're going to join my army. You're going to join my army. So now Shaul has gotten a lot of support, a great track record, and a lot of strong soldiers with him. Which brings us to chapter 15. When chapter 15, Shaul is going to be commanded to fight Amalek. This is one of the, there was a huge checklist that was kind of hovering over the Jews. The moment they entered Israel, the Jews had a checklist with 3 items on it. 3 mitzvahs that they had to fulfill upon entering Israel. One is to appoint a king, which they could only do once they're settled in their lands. Check, they got a king. The second was to fight and destroy Amalek, the nation of Amalek who attacked us when we were leaving Egypt. There's a commandment to wipe them out completely, to not leave anyone alive in their nation. And the third mitzvah is to build the temple. And one leads to the next. So Shaul has established his kingship. He's established his power, his dominance. People have accepted him. The next step now is fight against Amalek and destroy them. And this will lead us to the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. This was the plan over here. And that's why, since we're dealing with these very major items, that puts into proper light the introduction that we're about to hear. In verse number 1, chapter 15, Shmuel, the prophet, comes to Shaul the king, and he says, Hashem sent me limshachecha lemelech. Hashem sent me to anoint you to be the king over his nation, and therefore listen to the voice of God. Which means what I'm about to tell you is not a political strategy. I'm not telling you to fight enemies for your own sake. I'm telling you a command of God. This is a spiritual mission that I'm sending you on. Ko Amar Hashem Tzvakot. So says the Lord of hosts, the Lord of legions. Hakadati et asher asa Amalek leIsrael. I remembered what Amalek did to Israel. Asher sam lebaderech, that they ambushed us on the way when we were leaving Egypt. Ata, so now, lech v'ikita et Amalek, strike Amalek, v'acharamtem et kol asher lo, and destroy everything that Amalek has. Not just to kill the people, but even everything that they have. And this is very significant. Velo tachmol alav. It says explicitly. Part of the command here is, do not take pity on him. Velo tachmol alav was an explicit part of the command. Should kill man, woman, child, and even their livestock. Even their livestock. Vayishama Shaul ta'am. This is a very interesting word. Vayishama. The word shema usually means to listen. In this case, it means Shaul gathered the nation, and he counted them with sheep. As you know, it's a prohibition to count Jews, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Rather, everyone has to put forth an item, and you count the items. So in this case, he said, go to my farm, and everybody should take a sheep, and I will count you using the sheep. And it ended up being 200,000 regli. There was 200,000 infantry, Vaseret alafim, and 10,000 soldiers from Yehuda. Yehuda is accounted separately. probably because they were a formidable force, like they were their own little faction of a strong army. And here, this is the verse I want to stop on. Shaul ad ir Amalek, vayarev banacha. Shaul comes to the city of Amalek, and he fights in the valley. So I want to pause on this verse. Vayarev banacha. He fights in the valley. Chazal tell us was first of all a physical fight, but before that, it was a philosophical fight. The valley here is referring is a reference to the Egla Arufa. There's a mitzvah in the end of the Parsha Shoftim. If you should find a dead body outside of a city, so you measure to the closest city, and the elders of that city come out, and they do a whole process called Egla Arufa. They decapitate a calf by the riverside, and they proclaim that they didn't spill this blood. Familiar with this mitzvah of Egla Arufa? And that has to do, and they do it over a nachal, over a stream. In this case, I translated it as valley, but it's a reference to the mitzvah of Egla Arufa. So Shaul was reflecting on that mitzvah. Why? He said, from that mitzvah, when there's one dead person, that one lost soul is cause for all of this. The elders of the city come out, they have to make this whole procession. The land, the earth under which you decapitated that calf can never be plowed or planted again. It stays there forever as a remembrance to that lost life. One soul is so important that there's a mitzvah in the Torah, and I'm being asked to destroy an entire nation. This is what Rashi quotes. Uma bishvil nefesh achat amatara arof igla benachal bishvil kol nefeshot ha'ela lo kol sheken. If I should have mercy on that one soul, shouldn't I have mercy on all these souls of the nation of Amalek, man, woman, child? Ve'im adam chata, behema ma chata. And if man sinned, why should I kill their livestock? So this is very fascinating. On the surface, the Chazal that Rashi is quoting, the Gemara in Yuman Chaf Beis, on the surface, Shaul seems to be doubting the command of the Torah. He's saying, really? Does God really want me to kill these children? And he's reluctant to do it. Does God really want me to kill the animals? Why should I kill them?
It sounds also like they're talking that perhaps for all so to fight in a valley, I mean, I'm not a military strategist, but even I know that a valley is the last place you want to be in a fight.
Right, because you have the enemy coming at you from the top.
Yeah, you're prone to being surprised by the enemy coming at you from higher ground.
Right.
So,
I hear. So it could be that's causing some anxiety.
It could be causing some anxiety, and they also could be implying at this point that the distress that he has about the possibility of killing all of these people in this instance is putting him at a disadvantage.
Interesting, very interesting. So the challenge here is you have almost reflects what's happening in the parsha that we're going to read on Shabbat. Hashem is saying to do something, and a human being comes back and says, no, I'm not sure this is the right thing, right? Hashem tells Moshe to go be the Redeemer. I'm not sure I'm the right guy, God. In this case, it's even more egregious. Hashem said, kill Amalek. The prophet came and said, don't have mercy. And here we have Shaul suddenly reluctant and hesitating and wondering if this is the right thing. And he's fighting and reflecting on this parsha of Egla Arufa. So there's a few avenues I saw in the commentaries that he's not actually doubting the command of God. Obviously, he's a righteous person. He'll do whatever God says. However, in the Torah, there's no obligation to destroy the livestock. That was an addition of Shmuel. Could be Shmuel was speaking on behalf of God. Could be. But as far as Shaul knew, the mitzvah of the Torah was just to kill the people, not the livestock. And that's something that disturbed him. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky has a remarkable approach here. And he says, I'm trying to get all the details, that Shaul was not concerned about carrying out the mission. He would do that, but he was afraid about the impact that would have on his people. the Jews are about to go in there and kill children and to kill livestock and to cause such devastation, that will turn them into harsh and callous people. He was afraid of the impact that would make on them. He quotes, I think, it's in the Russian army when they had to execute somebody, instead of having one executioner do it, they would have a lot of people shoot at the same time, so that no one person will carry the blame fully, because they realize that this could really destroy a person psychologically and make him it will transform him into a harsher person, a heavier person. So that's just, right, executing one person. Here you're going to knock out a whole nation. Shaul was very concerned about the impact that would have on his people. Therefore, he was reflecting on the importance of even a single life, like which we learned from the mitzvah of Egla Rufa, from that mitzvah of decapitating. He was reflecting on that mitzvah to amplify and magnify to himself the importance of even a single life, and he wants to convey that to the nation. Not to say, don't kill Amalek. Certainly we're going to kill Amalek. We're going to get the job done, and we're going to kill the animals, everything that we need to. But we have to appreciate the importance of a life. Despite what we're doing now, we still have to sensitize ourselves. And therefore, says Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, Shaul thought of a way to carry out the command, but less harshly. For example, they're going to leave some livestock, the choice livestock, they're going to leave alive, not forever, just so that they could bring as sacrifices, like to resensitize themselves. By bringing a sacrifice and humbling themselves after this battle, so we're still going to kill the animals, but we're just going to push it off a little bit so we can bring it as a sacrifice. And the leader, Agag, who we also are going to see, they didn't kill him right away. They're going to push it off so they could do it in a more public way. So he found a way to technically fulfill the command of wiping out Amalek without, he's trying to offset the harsh impact it'll have on the individuals. That's how Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky explains it. But the mistake he made was, you don't have to make calculations. If God and Shmuel are telling you to do something, there's no harmful side effects. There are no harmful side effects. As long as you're doing it l'shem shamayim, if you're doing it with God's will in mind and not your own personal gain, you're not doing it, for example, to collect the spoils. But you're killing Amalek simply because God said so. In that case, you actually don't have to worry that you'll become a harsher or more callous person. The mitzvah comes with a built-in protection. And that's what Shaul didn't appreciate. And once again, this was his undoing. You find his own calculations and his own concerns are overriding the word of the prophet. The prophet said, kill them, don't have mercy. And Shaul says, yeah, but what about the impact it's going to have on the nation? What about if we use some of the animals for sacrifices? And his own personal calculations and concerns, they override what the prophet tells him. And that is his falling and his failing, and that's what's going to lead to the kingship being stripped away from him right here and now. Let's read for another moment. Marv's coming up. Okay, so they go down to the valley to fight. And by the way, just on this note, when Shmuel approaches Shaul, when the prophet instructs Shaul to kill Amalek, he opens by saying, Ko amar Hashem tzvaot, in verse number 2, thus says the Lord of, how do they translate in English? The Master of Legions. Hashem tzvakot, that name, tzvaot, the Master of Legions. This has been used once before by his own mother, Shmuel's mother. She's the one who came up with that name. She was the first person to refer to Hashem by that name of Hashem tzvakot. She was talking at the time of the tremendous organization and how every single, the vastness of creation, and how every single facet of creation has its own purpose. And Hashem, you're aware of all of that. And please let me fulfill my own purpose and be a mother. That's how she was using it. In this context, Shmuel is referring to Hashem Tzvakot, the Master of Legions, is Hashem. He is the only one that could tell us to put another human being to death. He is aware of every single facet of creation and every creation. And he knows which ones desire life, which ones deserve life, and which ones should be put to death. We as human beings don't have the option to say you don't deserve life. But if there's a command of God, you can rest assured he knows how all the pieces fit together and which ones are supposed to be there and which ones are supposed to be removed. So Shmuel was emphasizing, I know this is going to sound dramatic and harsh, but appreciate it's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's Hashem Tzvakot, the Master of Legions. He has the full perspective of every aspect of creation. And he's telling you to wipe out Amalek. Okay, so God willing, we'll pause here and we'll pick up next week with. Oh, next week I'll be traveling on Thursday night. Perhaps we should do it on Wednesday night. Would that be better? Would that be okay for you? I would hate to take off a week. Yeah, if it works, we'll continue. I'll send out an email next week. Bleenetter will do it.
I can't do Wednesday nights.
You can't do Wednesday. Oh, that's right. That's right. You have the thing. Okay, but maybe it's worth it just to close this chapter out, and then we'll pick up with David after that. Okay, I'll send out an email just to update you about the time. Okay, but Yesher Koch, that's it for tonight. So we got to the middle of chapter 15.
Thank you for the share.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Nice seeing you, Moshe. Stay warm up there.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. and Mrs. Fox.
Thank you.
Good night, Holy Wolperts. So good to see you.